All right, we live?
Yes, and I have a new back support today. It keeps me
Yes.
nice and erect.
The infamous Aspen lumbar support system.
Yes, it comes.
Adjustable, but not by your choice.
May or may not support you.
Yeah, probably won't.
Loves you only on Tuesdays.
Yeah, she's shooting you looks when we say these things.
It's because anytime I talk, I just like project into her, because she's literally her like rear legs are almost up my ass.
So you're basically her puppet, is what it's. Oh God, right in my mouth. Thank you for that.
All right, that's much better.
All right, I'm gonna. There we go.
All
You
right.
gave me an accidental deep throat there,
That wasn't accidental, but
Oh.
I, you know,
and afterwards you moved my mic.
and afterwards. All right. So, the official woman drink of the hour, a White Claw, which I can't even open because I have no nails.
You need a hand?
Oh man, dude, I need more than a hand. I need a sex change.
Oh, I think we can do a better intro than that.
Cheers.
That's where we're gonna start. Is Aspen going for the White Claw?
Yes.
That's all you have to contribute. Just yes. Excellent.
I was thinking about the White Claw for a second. I'm like, the mango tastes not as good as it did the first time.
Yeah, because mango is the world's worst flavor.
I don't know about the worst flavor, but it's a flavor that
It's
goes-
pretty terrible.
it goes up and down. It's like a roller coaster and or my dating life. So
No, so it's like I think it's one that you just get acclimated to how terrible it is after 3 or 4 sips of having it. But then like you haven't had one, it's back to your first drink of the night, and that's when you're like, "Oh, this is terrible again." And then give it 4 sips and you're like, "Now that I've got the stench of, fruity asshole on my tongue lingering, it's less offensive with a new addition." I swore there. We got to cut that out.
So what are you drinking?
I am drinking a low-calorie IPA, which now that I'm thinking about it, I can't judge you that much for. Because this is like the same version of what you're drinking, but for people with 2 testicles.
Except your koozie is way more manly than mine.
It's true, yeah.
You got the sharks, and I just got some whales.
Yeah, you got some vineyard vines.
Kind of like the women I date.
They're vineyards?
I was talking about whales, but
Oh. I was going to say, I lost me for a sec there.
but vineyards sounds way better.
It's because that's, yeah, no.
It's like nicely aged wine. Just tastes better with age.
So we figured out you're into overweight cougars so far.
Yes, if you consider cougars to be whales.
Well, you
So
said refined with age.
that's true. So does a whale then jump out of the water and become a cougar?
I don't think you're. That implies they're mutually exclusive. You can still have like an overweight cougar.
No, she wouldn't be a cougar then.
She won't be a good cougar. She'll suck at being a cougar. But she'll still technically be in the category of being a cougar, I would think.
Don't cougars have to be fit to actually go after younger guys?
I
thought
mean,
that
they
was
have to
one of
be
the
fit to be
requirements.
successful in the same way that a cougar in the wild has to be fit to hunt. I would think.
Yeah, so you can't have a fat cougar.
You can, but like I said, it just won't be successful. It's still out there thinking it's hunting, but it's not taking anything home.
It's like stand still for a second while I
It's like, yeah,
walk over there.
I wish that stag would stop moving so I could pounce it. Anyway, today's topic, we'll cut that so it's a little less awkward. Today's topic is appropriately dating apps. And I'd say kind of online dating in general, especially post-COVID. I think that's added some definite nuances to the online dating game and dating in general.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
quite frankly, I think it sucks.
Agreed there.
So, Matt, where do you want to start today?
Cougars on dating apps.
Cougars on dating apps. Okay, my age range is only like lower for the most part.
Now, but it wasn't always that way.
That's true, yeah. I mean, the oldest girl I dated was only like a year and a half older than me, so 29, about to turn 30. What about you? Where are you at?
Well, let's see. I was probably 24, 25, and she was 29.
Okay.
So
All right.
probably like 4 years older.
Yeah, so,
That's when it becomes strange.
and that's also because you were earlier to mid 20s and she was later 20s. So how'd that one go, and how'd you meet her? Let's start with that. That was pre-COVID, though.
Yeah, so this was pre-COVID, so we met at a bar.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the crazy girl, the Wiccan, where we were in line, and the one guy who was with me, who worked with me at the time, he's like, yo, don't go after that girl. She's crazy. I was like, nah, she looks all right. Crazy, 100%.
So I don't know. I don't think we put this in our last post, but you had a story, something about her people with the trains in New York.
No, that was a different Wiccan.
That's how many? What?
There's a lot of Wiccans. You'd be surprised at how many people.
I didn't know you dated multiple though.
No, I didn't date this girl. The one with the trains was some random girl on the street.
Okay.
This was when you could actually go to bars.
Yeah, that was those were the
Pre-COVID,
times.
pre-COVID days.
Yeah, 6 months ago.
Yo, I feel like, you know when people used to say back in the war or before the war.
Oh yeah, that's us
It's-
with COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, it's become that point where now it's that war, like before the COVID.
Before the COVID struck from the west. Actually, well, yeah, kind of. China's west. It's also east, depending on how far you go. But
Yeah, right. So it's east, but
so as long as you didn't
It's
say
also
COVID
west.
struck from the north, you're good. Like,
yo, those Canadians, man, they were behind everything.
yeah, good old Wuhan, Canada. Our greatest enemy,
It came from the great Siberian Midwest
the Great Siberian Orchestra.
Orchestra.
Yeah,
Also on the other side of the world.
that's our new conspiracy theory. Is the Siberian Orchestra laboratory in Canada generated Wuhan,
The Wuhan strike.
the Wuhan strike, and they gave them chemical weapons to fight with. And then China's like, oh, we don't want this rebellion getting out as news. We'll just tell them it's a global pandemic, and it'll be way easier to explain.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Sounds more believable than any of the other conspiracy theories I've heard.
Yes. Yeah, like the fact that it came naturally occurring from like bat soup or something.
Yeah.
It's way too.
You don't like bat soup?
No, it's too right wing for me.
Oh shit. Savage.
Anyhow, all right, clean cut here. Today's topic is kind of online dating, post-COVID, but in general online dating, and probably some talk of cougars. So, Matt, the only cougar you have been with, explain the situation. This was pre-COVID.
Yeah, so this was pre-COVID when you could actually go to bars, meet people. I'm not a huge drinker, but, you know, I would go to bars because that's this, whatever, normal social thing to do to meet people, where you can do it without being like, this is a weird thing, where people go out and they expect to be talked to and interacted with.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were in the Dirty Jers, and
or as you call it, the homeland.
the Homeland Security.
Yes.
It's gonna need some of that after the defunding of a certain organization.
Wow, we're just going right off the deep end here.
Yeah, so back to the story. It was late at night, I forget, Friday or Saturday. We were in line. There's two girls in front of us. One of them was pretty cute, and I was like, all right, yo, I want to go talk to her. I was with two of my other friends. They were both coworkers at the time. The one guy I didn't know very well, but he knew that girl, and he's like, yo, she's crazy. Anyway, we get in there. I got some water because I didn't drink. And I had to go to the bathroom realistically. And then so I go towards the back, and they were there just getting their drinks. And so I just like started talking to them. They were both into me, but of course I like wanted to talk to the crazier girl. I mean, they're both crazy, but one of them was oddly crazier.
So was she
group
like
of us-
also hotter?
Yes.
Okay. Like how much hotter? Like a
So
lot.
on the crazy hot scale, like linearly, so it wasn't
Okay.
really worth it. Or we might have had, a 0.5x. So she was like way crazier. Wait, which is that? The hot scale is Y, right? She was way crazier and way less hot.
All right. So
than
the
what
additional.
she should have been linearly, like if you did a 1-to-1
All right. So she
ratio.
should have gone like straight up, but then she was way skewed toward the crazy
Yeah,
side.
like more crazy than
That
hot.
that makes more. I think based on the experiences I've had, that's kind of how the parabola goes. Is as it gets hotter, it doesn't go linear. It's like
exponentially more
yeah,
crazy.
It is. Yep.
So, yeah, the night went well. We were just dancing, chilling, talking. So my two friends, ended up like forming a group, talking, but like it was whatever. Night went on. Ended up getting her number. We ended up hanging out another time. But she was like the crazy type of chick. Like she'd come over and literally just like throw her shoes across the fucking house. Like, oh, this is my house now, and just would open
And like
my fridge.
like NASA launched those bad boys.
Yeah, like straight up, to a point where it's like, all right, did you think you moved in here, bitch? Like, come on.
She doesn't even have a toothbrush
And,
there yet, but she's like trying to lay claim to the whole place.
Yeah, it's like, well, welcome to my kingdom. I claimed this land.
For Russia.
And she was also one of those like self-claimed dick-sucking queens, but was not.
So she was terrible at it, probably.
Yes.
Statistically, that's how most of the self-claimed ones are, I feel like.
Yes, exactly. It's one of those, like, I was not good enough to enter the race, but I'm going to make my own race to enter it so that I win.
Yeah, as the only contestant,
As
you're
the
the best.
only contestant, I vote for
Nice.
myself. 100% success rate.
It's like, I've never seen someone suck a dick better. Like, no, how many of you watched? Never.
Exactly.
That explains it.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
someone once described what a porn star did. They're like, they put it in their mouth and then they just kind of like, and she was like, "Yep, that's gonna be my game now. Got
She
this
probably
down."
read an art like a romantic novel and was like, as he placed his dick inside of her, and was like, "That's how you do
Felt
it."
the pulsation of the heartbeat, and she's like, "I'm just gonna take his pulse through his penis with my tongue." And that's gonna be the whole blowjob. Like
She,
that's
like-
where she stopped.
She like stops midway and like, "Oh, you have."
She's like, "Hold on, 92 beats per minute, baby. We're done. That was it. Was that good for you?"
It's like you have. What is it called when you have a skipping beat?
Oh, not like not palpitations, but
Yeah, heart palpitations.
yeah.
It's like, oh, you have heart palpitations. Should get that checked out. Like she could test it through his dick.
Oh my God, yeah. Can you? You think she
Yeah.
also tried to use it as like a breathalyzer at any point? Was she like that level? She's just like, oh yeah, I'm
I
gonna
don't
blow
think
this guy
any-
so good.
Oh shit! I thought you meant like to like clean her breath.
Oh, I mean, whatever she's into. I don't know. She's the self-proclaimed queen. I don't know her tactics.
I mean, yeah, you could say she was almost at that breathalyzer level, but not that bad.
Okay.
Close, but not that bad. Like it was one of those where like I could see you're trying, and it seems like you like it, but I don't really like it.
Like so she's into it. She's having a ball, and you just don't want to tell her she's terrible. It's like a kid playing softball, and you're like, this game, or like a play, and you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, but they're up there
But they
having
love
fun, and like you don't want to break their spirit. You're just happy they're happy, like
yeah,
that they're
it's
having
like
a blast.
it's like you give a kid a lollipop and they're just going ham on it, but you're like, that is disgusting and underage. We got to cut that out.
Oh wow, yeah,
That
okay,
was way too Jeffrey Epstein.
That
right
was
there.
yeah. That I thought you were gonna say like, oh, the kid's liking the lollipop, and we all know that the flavor is terrible. But you were like, no, it's like a kid working a lollipop.
Yeah, then I was like, up. Yep, no, that's
And just like that, we're banned from the internet again.
again.
That was a little Epstein of you, yeah. No, that's actually yeah, we're gonna stop that one there. Anyhow, back to this girl. So go on. So she is terrible at giving head. Did you keep going after that? Did the train stop there?
Yeah, I mean, I found out she was a Wiccan, into all the winter solstice, summer solstice part, like super into that stuff.
Did you find out
Would
like?
do like spells and shit, like weird things. And
So did you find that out like while you were in bed still, or was that after?
No, I mean she told me one of the times like we were hanging out. She's like, "So I need to tell you something. I'm a witch," and I just looked at her. I'm like, haha, yeah, like, which one are you talking about? Like, are you the crazy one or the... No. She's like, no, like, a witch. Cast spells and shit.
So, how many times did you hang out with her then that she got to the point of explaining? It's kind of a... Well, it's a belief system, definitely. I guess I'm not really familiar with Wiccans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with it either. But I'd say maybe 4 or 5 times we've hung out since then.
Okay.
And, yeah, it just ended up crashing and burning. She had, like, a lot of, like, demon books in the basement or whatever, the Satanist
Specifically in the basement.
In the basement, specifically.
Oh, God, yeah, she totally had bodies down there.
Yeah, her father ended up burning to death. Like, apparently he set his house on fire because he was smoking and then ended up dying in...
That sounds a lot. Yeah, that's sketchy.
Yeah, it's real sketchy. Like, real sketchy shit. And she was still living with her mother by the age of 29. So...
Less sketchy than burning her dad to death in a Satanistic ritual in the basement, but still a red flag.
Yeah, there was just so many red... I mean, the first thing was a red flag. Missed that one. Second thing was a red flag. Said, no, that looks green. Third one was a red... Yo, there's so many red flags, dude, I swear. I must be red-green colorblind. Like, that's the only way that could have happened.
Yeah, after 12 in a row, yeah, that one's kind of on you. Like...
Yeah, there's no excuse at that point. That was my responsibility.
At that point, you just give up on life, start drinking mango seltzers professionally.
And put it together a podcast to tell people all these stupid-ass stories.
Yeah, at least... Okay, that's how I... Oh, that was kind of my policy, like, when I was younger. And I would say dumber, but I'm still just as stupid. But I was
right?
like...
Isn't it as funny as the older you get, you think more people, like... Oh, once I'm in my late 20s, I'll be really smart. Or like, look
Like,
at
oh,
all
they
these
have it so
sophisticated-
together. Like, no, I don't. Like, I'm the same dumbass I was. I just have a couch now. Like, that's it, you know? Like,
right? It's like you're still just as dumb. Maybe you gained a little bit of dumb knowledge, but
yeah, I'm just like smarter about not projecting my stupidity. The second it hits my pea brain, I'm like, oh, filter 2 of those 3 syllables. Say the last one. Still gets me in trouble though.
that's why we still have to block out most of this video.
Yeah, we're gonna like 2/3 of this is gonna be censored by the
It's
time
like
we're done.
curse.
Like
I
curse,
missed the last one.
curse, questionably racist or like pedophilic comment.
Oh, I checked all those boxes.
Curse, and that was just the first 3 minutes.
And you wonder how we're both 28.
Yeah, right. Red flags everywhere. But anyway, so when I was younger, I would do, more impulsively the stupid things because my justification was like, is this smart? No. Is it fun? Possibly. Is it going to make a good story one day? Probably. Cool. Definitely doing it. Don't care what the risks are.
So you have a story for this?
So, I've got several that I'm sure, like, over several episodes, we'll get into a lot of them. But the point was, I did a bunch of really stupid things, including dating crazies and ignoring red flags, to the point it was a problem. Which, like, we can transition into online dating after this, but...
So where were some of the red flags that you blatantly ignored?
So, all right. So the last time I was single was about 4 years ago, roughly. And this one girl I was dating...
That was a lie.
Last time I was single? Yeah. So other than right now.
Oh, other than like, okay.
Yeah, and then like I was with a girl for kind of like 3.5, not quite 4 years, and then before that, that was the last time I was single. Before currently.
I got you.
Yeah. So there's this one girl I went is one of the 2 Tinder dates I've ever gone on, and this girl was like on the first date was a little confident about stuff, was like fine, but then like to the point of like blatantly shitting on this guy next to us at the bar, like within earshot, and I thought it was hysterical, and I was like, listen, a little bit of a red flag, a little crazy to be shitting on someone you just met at the bar, like while on a date with someone else to their face.
Wait, so she was talking to this other guy?
So basically, it was like this girl and I sitting at the bar, and like, actually, the date was going pretty well, and then this guy just starts butting in, and I'm 24 at the time, like, and she was, I think, 23, 24, and this guy's like 28, 29. What a weirdo dating or hitting on girls that young, right? Not that I would ever do that.
Who would do that nowadays?
So anyway, he starts just butting in, but not even like trying to like blatantly hit on her, like just telling us how he just moved in back home and now he's living with his mom again, and how he's lonely and just goes to the bar to get out of the house and try to meet people. And we're like, this is a date. See your way out of the conversation. Like, just guy couldn't read a room, right?
Yeah.
At all.
So he was one of those guys that jerks off in his mother's basement?
Yeah, probably. He doesn't even live there for that. Like, he probably moved back out, probably goes back just to jerk off in her basement, and then goes back to his apartment at this point. I'm hoping he moved out after another 4 years. But, Todd, if you ever watched this, I don't know what his name was. No idea. But anyway, so she turns and, like, just starts blatantly shitting on him when he's trying to engage and, like, ask questions. He's like, oh yeah, so like, what do you guys do? She's like, oh, like, I can't even remember what she said. Shut him the fuck down. She's like, oh, I like to do this and this and this when I'm not getting awkwardly hit on mid-date by guys who live in their mom's basements. Like, something like that, shit. Like straight brutal. And I fucking died. We're gonna have to blur that one too. I died laughing, like, so ballsy. Hysterical, should have been a red flag.
Yeah, but that's a different situation where a guy was interrupting your date and being impolite about it.
So he backs off, and she starts talking about how she's into BDSM.
Oh, well. Yeah, that's
second
flag number.
Red flag.
So it was like half a flag, full flag.
I was like, that's part of a flag. Then when you put it with, like, the much larger 50-foot red flag, I was like, okay, yeah, the first one's definitely a full flag too. But anyway, like, number of things like that where I was like, all right, I'm still going to play this one out.
Yeah. I would do the same thing. No lie.
Yeah, so it was fun for a bit.
You're into BDSM now?
No, not at all. Yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, I think we only had sex like once or twice, and it was kind of like, just didn't vibe with her really. And it was also...
You didn't spank her enough?
No, yeah.
You didn't smash your car into her, like, every time you came by?
Yeah, use my car to pin her down and run her over.
Yeah, run her over. And then,
I don't know. This is a little dark now. No, like, she was the kind who would like to try to be on top and then hold you down.
Oh, wow. So
yeah,
she was a dominator.
Yeah, but she wasn't like that dominant of a person, so it was like kind of weird. And I was like,
that's usually how it works out, though. The girls who are very quiet usually like more the opposite or vice versa. The ones who are very loud are actually more submissive. It's a weird type thing.
Yeah, because they're used to being one all day, and then they go to the bedroom and they want to be something else.
Yeah.
Which is why I like to tell
Role-playing.
people in the bedroom, like, oh, yeah, big dick energy. Because, like, everywhere else in my life, it's not that.
Energy. Well, you just shat on yourself, but...
Yeah, I realized the hole I was digging, and I was like, just gonna close the lid on the coffin.
It's like a sinking hole that's already there.
Yeah.
You can't get all the water
I'm
out. It's
2/3 in. I'm like, oh, well.
like, might as well go down with the ship. So yeah, going back to online dating and what you said about the whole thing where, you know, people are, or I think I was saying that, how people are different. Like they
Yeah.
want
Oh,
one thing.
I would agree.
So they're opposite. Their like sexual lives are different than their everyday lives. And I think the whole online dating has exasperated that.
I wouldn't say necessarily the sexuality versus how
Not
they are
really,
normally.
but like people will emphasize one part of their life and not really, like, you don't know really what their lives are
That's
based
okay.
on their pictures.
That's very true.
Where
yeah.
they can have pictures of them going like on vacation, but they've only done that small sections of their lives. They don't really travel that much, but they had some awesome shots taken. The rest of their lives, they could be someone else.
Like, to be honest, or if they have a bunch of pictures like hiking in the mountains, but then they spend every single day, binge watching Netflix every night.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
same
You
thing,
don't
like,
really know.
You maybe go on a hike once every week or two, maybe, or maybe once a month, maybe twice a year. But then you're emphasizing that portion of your life.
Adventure. Yeah,
you're right.
exactly.
It's kind of a weird dynamic where you can focus on something that's such a small portion doesn't necessarily represent you. And then building on what you said earlier too, without having bars, without having that ability to interact, I think that takes away a lot of the ability to just kind of cold approach someone and get a feel for their body language, their energy in general, how they carry themselves. I think that's a huge part of dating and
Oh,
attraction
definitely.
in general that we completely take out. And now we're just like, that's rough. Because, like, quite frankly, some people just aren't photogenic, and others are really good at hiding the fact
Oh,
that they're
definitely.
57 pounds heavier than their most recent photo.
Exactly. And on top of that, a picture only shows one moment of their lives, where if they're in front of you, you get infinitely more moments, and they don't have time to think of their reactions.
Yeah.
So you ask them a
So
question.
it's a lot more natural.
Yeah. You say, all right, well, what do you do? They can't say, oh, well, I love to hike and shit because look at these pictures. It's like they can bullshit. Like, I mean, I guess they can bullshit, but you can look at them and you're like, you don't fucking hike.
Yeah.
Or you call them out for that shit, and then they react. Where if you do that online, they go, blocked, fuck you. Like, you can't be sarcastic.
we have to blur out like half of that.
Oh, I was gonna say another word, but I caught myself. You can't be sarcastic, too sarcastic. You can't change your tonality, so you could say something really bland, but have a certain tonality to it, and it's funny or fits the moment. But you can't do that.
Yeah.
I guess you can add emojis. You can't even use italics.
Yeah,
But even
'cause, like,
italics is like,
Because what are the stats? Something like 80% of communication is nonverbal between body language, tonality, delivery, right?
and then they make you do it verbal, not even verbal, but through.
Through text, and you
Text.
lose all of that. And yeah, as a result, like you're saying, there's no way to deliver it in the way you intended to. So now you have to go super dialed back, or like you said, generally they don't get it or appreciate it or realize you're being sarcastic and you're joking around, and they're like, "Oh, dude, look what he sent me," and then yeah, like you said, blocked.
Exactly.
So I think it's kind of, not only does it make it a lot more challenging and make you, I think, way less likely to connect with someone who you could very likely otherwise connect with and be compatible with, but I also think it's just a whole new slew of obstructions on top of that. I think one of
Yeah.
them being expectations in an app versus in person
Exactly, because
astronomically higher for some reason.
if you meet them in person first time, you know what they are in person, and when you start dating them, you date them in person. You already have so much of reference experience to know what you're going to expect the next time. Whereas you're on the app,
Oh,
you're
you're
texting.
saying because you already have that interaction.
Yeah, you already had an
face-to-face?
interaction, so you know that, like, if you were to date that person when you date someone in person, you know what that vibe would be like.
Yeah.
Maybe not fully, but you're this much closer than texting them, predicting what their vibe would be, then actually going out with them, noticing that the vibe is different than what you predicted, and then trying to piece it together and or try to make a new vibe that's then going on,
which is extremely
which
difficult.
is difficult once you've already set the precedence of what was going on, because there's expectations set, and you could backtrack on some of those expectations.
So going off what you said, I know I've experienced this. I'm wondering if you have as well, where even if you do get to a point where you're kind of like hitting it off with someone and you're vibing over text, over like messaging, whatever, through one of the apps, or like actually texting them, you get their number or whatever. Have you ever showed up and then the vibe was completely off?
100%.
And then you just don't hit it off with them?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay. Because I know that's been a
so
real
common.
issue.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Because people's personas change based on the form of communication that they use.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
100%. So, like, you could be talking to them on the phone. They could be different than if you text them. They could be even different than when you're in person. Like, how many times have you called someone up and you're like, yo, they sound so sexy? And then you meet them in person. I mean, you have the Dunkin' Donuts story.
So I told Matt this story previously. So in high school and then into college, I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts. It was for like 6 years I was there. And even when I was first training, one of the guys that I worked with, who was training me, he was a little more crass in general. But he was like, yeah, this place is going to fuck with your mind. And I was like, you're like, what do you mean? He's like, yo, like, you are never, ever going to be able to call a sex hotline again. And here's why. It's like, you ready? Listen to this girl on the drive-through headset. There's a car pulling up. It's like, yeah, she sounds pretty sexy, doesn't she? She sounds pretty cute. I was like, actually, like, she did.
Yeah.
He's like, you watch. You wait till she gets to that window. Then think of the image in your mind and open your eyes. And she was a big girl, but also not a looker. And also on top of that, not at all well put together.
Yo, this is like the triple decker shit sandwich.
Girl was rough. And like, listen, everyone gets off days. But when you look like a mobile dumpster fire and your car is also littered with shit, it's not doing you any favors, right?
But you sound like a 10.
She sounded good, yeah. So until you had any of that face-to-face interaction, she was doing fine.
Yeah.
Which is not unlike some of the dating apps, actually, which is kind of weirdly appropriate. But yeah, but you're right. Like, the different forms of communication, totally different expectations.
100%. And I'm not saying that in the bar it's 100% the same as if you went on a date with them, because there's, you know, alcohol involved, the vibe, who's the friends,
it's the setting and stuff too.
It's different for sure, but it's way closer than any of the other forms of dating.
No, I would agree. I think in general that face-to-face interaction and that setting in which you can go up and engage with people, I think that does so much more for being able to meet people and interact with them and then, you know, connect with somebody than all the swiping and like, what are you into? Because it's such a predicament, right? If you match with someone on an app, first of all, if they match with you, which they're not likely to because people suck on apps and they have these absurd expectations, which we can get into in a minute.
Yeah.
Completely unrealistic for the type of person and the quality of person they are. And it's both male and female do it, but I think it's more skewed for certain demographics, as you and I have talked about before. But like, oh, it's frustrating. Where was I going with this?
No, but yeah, totally. The expectations are way off. Whereas in person, there's a lot more that you've already uncovered that you don't need to expect. What they sound like, what they look like, what they like.
I remember what I was going to say now.
Their vibe, energy. Yeah.
All right. So even if you do match with them and you're trying to have that engagement, you're stuck in like almost like a catch-22 where it's like, all right, you make no effort to connect on their hobbies and stuff, and you just like spit whatever and then hope it eventually leads to you meeting up, and then you have to ask them there. Or you're like really boring and you're like, so what are you into, to try to make sure you have common ground, and then they don't reply because you're boring.
So the thing is, the way that you can talk in real life is way different than on dating app, right? In real life, you can ask someone, so what are you into? and completely fine if you say it with the right tonality and at the right point, right? Let's say you
And
already
it doesn't
like,
come off as dull.
it's
You're
not
engaging.
weird. It's engaging, and it moves the conversation forward, and you get to connect. It's a moment of like,
Whereas a dating app, they're like, oh,
He's
he's just asking a
boring.
boring question. Blocked.
you can even talk about the weather in real life, but if you do it in a funny way, you can totally pull that off.
Oh,
All
yeah.
the questions that they say don't say, you can do it in real life because there's other ways you can deliver it and other moments you can
Oh,
deliver it where you
100%.
could not do that on a dating app.
Yeah, because of all the parts of the communication that aren't strictly the words you say, but also how you say them.
Yeah, because you can start a conversation by not even starting a conversation. You can just do some body language, like put your hand
go up and
out,
you're like-
look at them,
you point, you
at
start
them.
dancing,
You can
right?
dance. There's so many ways you don't like those. That's the 80%, which you don't even need to do. And even if you add those words, they're still looking at the other 80% way more than what you say.
Yeah, exactly.
And that you
And
can't
you strip
fake.
all of that away online. I hate it.
So online, any chode can slide into a girl's DMs. It requires no balls whatsoever. Whereas in real life, you need to have a certain amount of confidence and social acuity to know how to go in and when to go into a conversation. That cannot be faked in real life. Whereas on the dating apps, you can fake that all you want.
Oh, yeah.
And so then it creates unreal expectations where you can say hey in person. Perfect way to open. Like if you don't know what to say, hi works very well. On a dating app, you will not get a response for saying hi. Like
99 times out of 100, if you're like, hey, you're like, what's up? They're like, not much, you. Not much. Cool. And the conversation's dead. Like, even if you get that initial response, you got 3 more before you're dead.
Exactly. But in real life, how do you actually greet people? You don't go like, hey, just saw you and you looked like cute. Like, you don't really use
Yeah, we
that.
should go to, like, after COVID is a little more toned down and we can go in public again, we should just go to a bar and be like, hey, swiped right because I thought you were cute and into hiking. And like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, not used to being in public anymore. My bad.
Yo, see, that would work because it's funny.
But, like,
But-
again, you have to have that tonality to deliver it and,
Exactly.
like, to let them know you're joking, and all that is stripped away.
100%. Because it would sound like, hey, you into hike? And it's not.
Hi, I swiped right because you have photo mountain.
Yeah.
Boring. Locked. Like, it
Yeah,
would
that's exactly how it is.
yeah, I'm sure they all use, and by they all, I mean all the ones who have blocked me, use that exact tone as they do it.
Exactly. And that leads to the other thing is the expectations we were talking about, where we were saying people can shoot a couple pictures, a couple moments in their lives, and you're extrapolating the rest of their lives based on the few pictures. It's like watching a movie, but not watching the whole movie, just watching a picture from each scene and then trying to piece that together.
Oh, yeah, but
Is
the
sh-
problem is the movie is, 20 to 35 years old.
Yeah. And you don't have
And
any
you literally,
context.
you have 4 frames. 4
Yeah.
independent frames.
And you're like, tell me what else happened in this
You're
movie.
like, okay, so far I know somewhere near water, somewhere near the sky, that's an airplane, and that is presumably a cousin or a brother or an ex-boyfriend? Possibly all of them.
And then you're like, he's rich and he likes to travel. Swipe right. Like, that would be how it would go.
Yep, like, no, secretly you got, like, stolen and smuggled into the Cambodian sex trade, and that was, like, the day they freed you from a cave. And you're
Yeah.
like, I'm free. That's why you look at him and you're like, oh, he's an adventurer.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. The context is completely taken away too. And then to ask point blank, most people decipher as you're boring and uninteresting or can't be original. And then they ignore you, and it sucks. But even before that point, and I think this is something we both complained about having been on a bunch of these apps, is the unrealistic expectations. I think I would, from what I've heard, it sounds like that are more set by women than by men, where frankly people who are not that great or that accomplished are trying to get someone better, and they have this laundry list of criteria where it's quite frankly not realistic in the sense of someone having all those traits. And then even if that person exists, you're not going to be the one that they would realistically go for.
Yeah.
To the point that they just swipe left on everyone, or even if you match, they have no intentions of engaging, which kind of defeats the purpose of being there.
Yeah, and I mean, I showed you that Roommates podcast we were listening to, and
where they had the matchmaking expert.
Yeah, and they
or
were
whatever.
so
That's
on point
true, yeah.
where it comes down to a difference between what men and women value. And so men, of course, value physical attractiveness above anything, where they made even a good point saying you have two women. One woman is like very successful in her career. The other woman could probably be in some dead-end job. The dead-end job woman is super attractive, and the other woman is not as much. More times than not, the guy would go for that super attractive woman. And it depends on the guy, of course. Some guys are looking, it depends on what they are, but it also shows that men have a different set of values than what women would say, where like a woman would first look at his looks, say, all right, he's pretty attractive, but then add on top of that, so what does he do? What's his job? What's his family like? What does he drive? You know, where does he live? What is he into? And all this stuff piles on to where they get unrealistic expectations, like let's say based on these dating apps, that a couple of the top 20%, 20% of guys do all these crazy things, maybe even less. Maybe it's the top 1%.
I would argue it's like, I was going to say it's probably
where they're able to travel the world, they're doing the top end jobs, and they can live this lifestyle. So maybe some of these women had the opportunity of dating some of these guys, and now the bar is set that this is the average guy. And so they expect that from all the other guys.
I think, kind of building on what you said, right? I think it's a very narrow portion of the population that has all these criteria. So it's usually, height above a certain height. 6'2" is perfect because that's about where I am. So I'm unbiased, but that is the perfect height. But then, has to be a certain height, but also, relatively fit, attractive, certain build. I think things like hair color, eye color are less important compared to, just general overall package.
Yeah, like what's put together.
Yeah. But on top of that, like you said, has the means to travel or a good paying job or, a number of these other things, which is a very small percentage of the population who has even most of them, let alone all of those things. But the thing is, even if they haven't dated those people before, like you're saying, they could have gone out and had conversations or dates with some of these, even if they haven't had those, if they just see they're there, and with the plethora of options available on dating apps, with how much volume they can give you, just seeing they're available, people suddenly get the mindset of, oh, well, it's here at my fingertips. I don't have to settle. I know they're there. It's just a matter of time before I match one.
Yeah. And it's also, exactly, and they're trying to fill out every checkbox.
Yeah.
I want the perfect man. You hear that a lot. I want the perfect man. The perfect man doesn't exist.
Oh, no.
That's
everyone's
a reality.
Human.
Yeah, everyone's human. And so at the end of the day, what are you going to, what are your main priorities? You set a few of them that's super important for you. Everyone has a different set of priorities. And does, for the most part, does it work? Cool. And the rest of it,
do you have similar hobbies? Do you have similar values?
And goals.
Similar goals. And then on top of that, going back to what we said earlier, even if someone meets all your checklists, they're not necessarily going to vibe with you and have the right energy and the right interaction style in person.
Yeah.
So you have to factor that in too, and people are ignoring that, which I think is personally probably one of the most critical things to gauge off of. They're ignoring that altogether for this, quite frankly, unrealistic wish list that probably will never get fulfilled because they're unwilling to make realistic sacrifices to find someone who's actually a good partner and not just the dream guy that they created based on whatever shopping list they had in mind.
Yeah, because what the expectations or goals were back in the day We're like, yeah, I want a house, I want some kids, the white picket fence, maybe
Specifically
a
a
car.
white picket fence.
I don't know what is the thing like now.
I get what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Now those are considered basic things, right? Our standard of living has kind of increased, where the expectations of what they need is not just the house. It needs to be a mansion. We need to travel all the time. It needs to be on, where realistically most of the time it's just chill. And
Oh,
or
yeah.
you're working, right? For the average person, they're working, it's chill. You have some afternoon evenings and weekends where you can have fun, but
But the
couldn't
majority of your
physically-
time, yeah, it's like you said, where we have those snapshots that you post for the photos that are that little glimpse to that portion, but it's not going to be representative. And like you just said, the majority of your time is not those extreme outliers.
Yeah. Like, if you're either the guy's working or the girl's working, right? Majority of the people in the U.S., I mean, that's kind of like
Yep.
the standard, right? You'd say, all right, there's whatever, 4% unemployment. That means most people are working. That's the reality of it. Most people don't have super flexibility in their schedule. There's becoming more as COVID's making people work remotely. But even then, a lot of people are not these millionaires, billionaires who can just fly around and
Oh,
do
yeah.
whatever they want.
Yeah,
So,
for most people, it's all travel. Like, as an example, travel being the big one we're kind of discussing right now.
yeah.
Very meticulously planned, well in advance. You have to save up for it. You have to,
Yeah, it's like the one travel a year, one vacation a year that your
If you get
vacation
that.
days a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you planned it, and it might not be that 5-star hotel that you want at the 5-star restaurant, but it's going to still be a fun time. You're
Yeah.
going to go to that location
But like
and
you said,
do some fun things.
might not be the 5-star thing, but to make it work for you, you have to make compromises. You already see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, for example, going to restaurants every day, that's most likely not like what is it called? Viable for most people.
Yeah.
You can't be spending $100 every time you go out, especially
every
nowadays
meal, yeah.
with the meal prices, and food just keeps going up and up. It's like,
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing is I think in general, granted, like America 100% is built on the premise of excess.
oh, 100%.
Oh yeah. So I think we're probably some of the worst offenders as a nation. But that kind of instillment of excess in our culture and everything, I think that's a big contributor to what's led us to think, yes, we can find these people because they're out there, therefore that's who I'm going to get, even though we know it's a stretch goal because we don't want to compromise in these other places because, frankly, we're not realistic.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, you hit it hard when you said it's part of the culture of excess. And yeah, it's in the movies, it's in the shows, it's in the Instagram, right? Everyone's on the gram or the Snapchat where you see these models or whatever.
The Snapchat,
The Snapchat
the single one.
or TikTok. I don't use TikTok, so I don't really know.
I'm
but
not allowed to because of my job, but
it's fine.
porn.
But yeah, like you see, oh wow, everyone's like driving these crazy cars, they're going on these crazy vacations, but the people who are posting them and get all these views are the subset. And
Yep.
so,
And even then, it goes back to what you were saying earlier of they're displaying that one probably not
best moments,
representative.
yeah.
Yeah.
so you don't really know how their family life is, how their home life is, what else they're struggling with.
So that's
They
actually-
could be, addicts. They could be struggling with their own, like,
So that's something
self-worth,
that I
stuff
want
like
to
that.
transition into anyway, and I'm glad you brought that up. So some of the most unhappy couples I've met are the ones who try to portray that they're the happiest online,
Oh yeah, definitely.
which blew my mind when I first realized that. Because especially younger me, I'm sure you probably were a little less aware of it younger, but it's so easy to be, especially growing up with these social media platforms, it's so easy to believe what you see there and to believe the impressions that people lead you on with based on, consistent posts, consistent content that gives you that same impression over time. So the lie kind of becomes real from a public face, right?
Yeah. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. Not that it actually happens, but it in the minds of the people,
Yeah.
they stitch it together like you said, and it becomes that way. It's you don't know what happens behind closed doors, and those closed doors.
And that's what it comes down to.
yeah, and that's where it's out of the public eye, and you don't really know. And someone who you think might not post a lot and or argues in, like, not all the time, but they might have one or two disagreements, actually might get along really well in their everyday life, and it might have just been
and
that
maybe
one moment.
they're comfortable enough to like have those discussions and involve others, even if it makes others uncomfortable, and that's why it comes off that they're arguing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or they might just find it funny when they
And
go
they
out and be
collectively decide-
super
Yeah,
sarcastic,
oh,
and you didn't even know that they were being sarcastic. Maybe they planned that whole moment, like, we're gonna fake fight and make everyone believe this.
Yeah,
shit.
they're
and-
probably serial killers. if your friends do that to you for fun, they're serial killers. There's a number you can call. It's called 911, and run like hell.
or you can just drive away.
That's true. That's probably a lot faster, more efficient.
Yo, that phrase probably came out way before any of our modern transportation technologies.
Yeah, you think it's because like the first. I don't know. Did anyone go to hell and come back? That's not what Jesus did. He just walked on water.
I'm sure that people will probably tell stories of that.
Okay. I was
You know,
gonna
like,
say
the guy or the kid
some
went to
guys like
heaven.
brought back from hell. It's like, oh, it's so bad. You're like, oh, what did they make you do? I had to go running. And that's where the expression came from. I'm convinced. Running is the worst, man.
Yeah. It is one of those things where you either love it or you hate it. And you might be able to get it over time if you keep doing it.
No, I tried that. I still hate it.
It's like that hamster wheel. It just keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah, my hatred for running.
I'm not super big into those monotonous type activities or very
I thought you were
continuous-
going to say monotonous relationships.
I mean, those two, but
But then I also thought you said monogamous at first, and then I realized I was wrong on both. I was like that's a jump.
yes.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Go on about monotony.
Monogamy. That's the other thing that they're pushing nowadays, where it's like this polyamorous
Oh,
relationships are
Open
starting to surface.
relationships.
Yeah, open relationships are starting to surface.
life
And
of
those are
excess.
another thing on. Have you ever ran into people like that on these dating apps?
Oh yeah. So specifically, I think Tinder was the worst culprit for people who are like, "Oh, we are a couple seeking a third." Also with a checklist,
Yeah, right.
which also killed me. I'm like, all right, well, you already got a limited supply of who's willing to join one of you, let alone both of you. Like,
Yeah. But the thing is, as I was thinking to this list supply, I think the places that are closely tied to cities or very close to cities and or this like hustle and bustle
the busier lifestyle.
busier lifestyle where you have to have all this stuff, you're into that excess.
Those seem to be where.
Yeah, whereas the farther you get out into the country, the less I feel it affects those people, because they're more intact or they're more in tune to different things of their lifestyle, or whether it's being in nature, being with family, doing some event, having those whatever bonfires and stuff like that.
So I think what we've effectively established here is that apps suck because it gives unrealistic expectations and very limited human interaction. People portray false images of themselves on social media, so social media is also evil. Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. That's just a granted that we always like to discuss. And that people in big cities like polygamous relationships because they are shallow and materialistic and they have a plethora of options available, and they don't want to settle because they are worried about getting the next best thing. And as such, their
Yes.
values in life reflect different things than people who are farther out who prefer monogamy, not to be confused with Matt's monotony.
Monotony. Yes, but that's Pandora's box, so to speak, right? The plethora of options.
Is it filled with music?
It's filled with everything.
That's the one on my phone is filled with music.
Yeah, your Pandora playlist is the
Is-
bomb.
yes. It's the bomb.gov.al-Qaeda.
This video is gonna get banned now.
Yeah. I mean, we already called social media the devil or something, right?
Yeah, I'm sure YouTube will ban.
Oh,
us
and
for that.
running's the devil. Yep. There we go. No, YouTube's fine if we make money off of it. Until then, it's the
Yeah.
devil.
Well, you never know. They might just ban you for no reason.
It's true. They probably will. Have you seen this face?
You never know them nowadays. You can
This
just-
face screams guilty. They take one look and they're like, this guy's probably a retired frat boy.
They'd be like, "Yeah, you're not wrong."
They're going to look at me and they're going to be like, oh, his face says, my father's lake house back in Connecticut. My father doesn't have a lake house in Connecticut. He's got one in every other New England state. No, he doesn't.
Well, he has one in the New England.
Yeah,
state.
it's a camp, though. It's like a 700, 800 square foot thing.
It's still a lake house.
Not so
Cabin in the woods.
cabin in the woods near a lake. I'll give it that. No, I don't know. In my mind, right, there's like the two types of people who kind of have those. It's like people who have the camps where it's like, it's a small weekend getaway, which is kind of what my dad bought, like a really small place for like 90 grand in the 90s. He picked it up. And it's like, yeah, his little weekend getaway place. And then there's the lake house people who are like the 3,000 square foot waterfront homes for $1 million.
With the boat and
With-
jet skis.
Yeah,
in
with
the
the-
backyard.
So when people tell me lake house tells me excess. Camp tells me, okay, you're doing what you can to get by and you want it to go away on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I like to classify myself as the frat boy in the second category.
The one that doesn't get laid.
Yes. Hey man, they told us to stop raping.
And they told you to use dating apps. And,
Wow. It's just we gotta not have that ending. I don't want that to be like.
Could you imagine if frats stopped throwing parties and they started just getting people together through
Through dating
online
apps.
dating apps? The dynamic would completely change.
Yeah,
I don't think the amount of raping would go down, though.
I think this is a touchy subject, and I think there's no good way for me to answer this. I think it's not necessarily the people in fraternities who normally do a lot of the sexual assault. I think it happens, right? And I think there are certain organizations at certain schools, especially that have gone unchecked for long periods of time. And the type of people who join those organizations, very old money, very mommy and daddy or lawyers can get me out of anything a lot of times. So they kind of have that mentality of entitlement anyhow and think they can get away with whatever anyhow. So I think those people do exist and they do it. But back when I was in a fraternity back in college, we kind of started our own chapter at the University of Connecticut. Most of the issues we had were actually guests that people brought or other people who snuck into our parties because we all know each other. We're like a group of 60 close friends that, we do these other events. Some of them are, parties off campus. And a lot of times, most of the females who went are kind of the same group who are friends of us. On occasion, some random other people would show up, guys and girls. But those are always the ones who trashed it, both guys and girls, because they're not tied to the house. They don't know these people. They don't have to worry about the financial responsibility of trashing someone else's house. So girls actually so destructive of the bathrooms. And I'm not saying like they'd bomb the toilet and left. Like they were the types to like take the guy's mouthwash and like dump it all over the shower because like one of the friends vomited into the bathtub and they're like, oh, we don't know how to clean it. Like run the shower. Like that's all you got to do. And they're like, oh.
Shit.
They'd shove full rolls of toilet paper into the toilet bowl and like clog it. So destructive. But then those were also the, like, on the guy's side, those were the ones who were getting way too handsy with girls a lot of times, or the ones who were, like, literally in some cases trying to hand out drugs to people, and we're like one guy just starts, like, putting cocaine on the counter once. We're like, dude, like, you can't have that in our house. Like, what are you doing?
Without sharing.
I'm sure a couple of the people probably thought that, but, like, my name was on all the paperwork for liability, and I was like, I am not getting pegged with that. Like, that's bullshit, man. Get out of here.
Smart of you.
Yeah, no, that was the dumbest thing I ever did.
I think you're part of the minority of frat boys, though.
Yeah, the ones that are responsible.
Yeah.
Probably
maybe
true.
maybe not. Maybe you're right. Maybe the ones that are official and they're actually trying to do good are not like that, and the media may portray the 1% as the majority. Like
Also, we are
they're
way
trying
off
to-
topic at this point.
Somewhat. I mean, it's still related to dating and
That's true. That's true, yeah.
social interactions. But yeah, I mean, going back to the whole dating app, people would knock people off for reasons. I mean, I told you the one story where I met this girl years back on Tinder. We I sort of chatted maybe once or twice, fizzled out, not going anywhere. Ended up meeting up with her in real life, went really well. I went from there. And so that was one of the stories where I was like, damn, like, it really shows the difference that you can make meeting someone in person versus
Oh, yeah, with that
meeting them on
face-to-face
the app.
interaction.
Yeah. Because how do you differentiate yourself when all you get are just messages and pictures?
The way you do it is with a higher quality camera, as we've proven.
Yeah. Because a higher quality camera can make any person look way better.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you had the lighting, the right picture, and the right setting, or the right shot and setting.
Yeah, so we performed a recent experiment where Matt's got a very nice camera, and we went and I took what is probably the best photo I've ever taken in my life by pure dumb luck. No talent at all. Like, camera autofocuses, and we just, like, went at sunset, and I was like, okay, we're going to go to this spot. I know it's an okay spot. I know the lighting's going to be okay because of
The
the time of
lighting
day.
wasn't even that good, but it came out so good.
But, yeah, we just...
relative to any, whatever.
Yeah, the
phone shot.
732 failed photos I took prove I am not a photographer. But the one that came out good...
It's the only one that anyone sees.
Yeah.
They don't see all the other failed attempts.
But you said your likes have gone up a lot, correct?
Well, I didn't post that photo on social media. I just put it on Facebook. I got the one with Aspen, though.
Oh, that's not a different one with Aspen?
Yeah, this was Aspen by the lake.
Oh, that one.
That one
I
by
thought the
herself.
one. I thought you meant the one of you holding her.
No, I got to add that one. But
All right.
I was going to add it a little bit later because I'm still talking to some of the girls, and once that fizzles out, then I'll
Oh, you don't want to.
recreate it.
Yeah, you don't want to send him the red
Yeah.
flag.
Why are you changing your photo?
You updated your profile even though we haven't done anything in the last 2.5 weeks. We had coffee twice, and you are talking to anybody else? You must marry me now.
I claim this land.
For the record, that is not at all what she sounded like.
Yeah.
But
She probably sounded really bad, though, because judging from the Dunkin' Donuts experiment, right? Better looking girls sound worse, or whatever.
no, not necessarily. No, she sounded normal.
All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a frequent caller on her sex line if she had one. You know, like, she didn't have that, like, soothing, sultry, sexy voice.
Yeah.
She sounded normal, but she was probably the most attractive girl I've dated.
And she wanted to lock you down. Didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and she had a job. So, like, retrospect, maybe my bad life choices have continued. No, no, I don't think she was for me, though. But
Yeah. Maybe someone else who wants to be locked down after 2 dates. would be into
Oh
that.
yeah. Well, you already know.
I mean, back in the day, that's how it worked, right? You met him once or twice, and you got
Yeah, it's because
engaged.
you had
And
3 choices in a 100-mile radius that weren't your cousin. I think that's
Not
why like
wrong
all
there.
the farmers down south just started dating their cousins. They're like, well, we're not walking to another town. Like, there's nothing else around here. The neighbor's 4 miles away. Apatha, looks like it's you and me.
it's funny, but it's also sad.
Yeah, it also might be true now that I think about it.
Are we allowed to say this on public?
We probably gotta crop this down lengthwise anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
Yeah. So how are we gonna finish this up?
what we're gonna do realistically is cut it 30 minutes ago before this discussion really trailed off at a good point.
No, I think it's good to trail off like this.
All right.
It makes a legit discussion, because what we were saying before is you don't want to see snippets of it, right? You want to see the whole thing as it is,
That's
raw
true.
form.
But we kind of had like a secondary discussion, so we could do like a second episode on it, I guess.
All right, maybe we'll
So
split it
we might do that. Anyway, so I think what else did we hit? So I mean, last time we really hit that running is from hell, and so are dating apps, social media. Jeffrey Epstein, polygamy. No, that's from New York. Okay, polygamy, and
Yeah, I mean, solution-wise, do you see any solutions to these problems?
yeah, solutions is we all give each other COVID, and the survivors, first of all, we're genetically superior if we survive. It's proven, which is already makes us more attractive as mates, but then we can all go hang at the bars together and just socially interact again. That's my
It's actually
solution.
not a bad idea.
Or the more realistic solution is get off apps if you're not willing to use them. If you have no intention of meeting anyone and you're just like trying to window shop, stop wasting everyone's time. Get out of there.
Yeah, how do you
And then be more
how do
willing.
you filter those people out, though?
You can't unless they just stop signing up. You have to they actually have to just stop being shitbags.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I don't have a magic bullet for that one. It's just that.
Yeah.
But
I
then,
mean-
on top of that, be more willing to interact with people beyond text, even if you're not vibing over text. Like, offer and accept offers of being willing to, have a Zoom or a Skype date or an actual
I was
coffee
gonna
date or
suggest one
something
of those. I think those are
earlier
probably
on.
better. Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, definitely more a well-rounded view of the person would be necessary. I still think in person will trump all, but
I agree.
considering the current situation and state of affairs of the world,
Still try to get
that's-
something that, even if it's not in person, is at least a verbal form of communication.
yes. So you get a little bit more like tonality and
Yeah.
pace
Potentially body language. Yeah.
in body language. I still think that the video introductions would probably be better than the whole pictures and
Definitely.
like if you were trying to be serious, pictures and text
We should make
makes
a dating
it
app.
easier to go through, but it wouldn't necessarily give you a better, well-rounded. The thing is,
We're
lot
gonna
of
make
people,
a dating app where you have to film a 15 to 30 second intro video where you have to actually describe yourself or like do a skit. And that's gonna be the premise, because you're gonna learn so much about people in that little clip. Especially if you force them to have to talk during it.
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't know how many times they've recorded it too.
Yeah, but still, even if I take 10 attempts to record it, it's still going to be a better representation of how I behave and how I act than a single photo with a caption. Or even 4 photos.
Yeah, it would be better, but it's not perfect.
It's not perfect,
but it's better. Yeah.
but I think it's a better than our current condition.
The issue with getting that, though, is a lot of people like using their apps throughout the day where they don't want to listen. They just want to know.
That's also
right,
true.
Right away, boom. Where we're still in that culture of instant gratification and instant results, which is why the pictures and text are so popular because it's boom, 3 seconds, yes or no.
Easy, instant.
You make a 3 second judgment call on the entire basis of this person.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's great. It's so much power. That's why I love it.
Yeah.
Especially because I know I'm never gonna message them again.
That's savage. But it looks like my face is getting really red.
Not really.
No? Maybe it's just the lighting of the camera.
Probably is. But yeah, no, I'm glad I'm no longer on the apps at this point because that was miserable.
Yeah.
And if I have to go back, I might shoot
you're
myself.
kind of going steady with this girl, so.
Yeah. But not because we met on an app.
Yeah, because she almost didn't even want to meet you.
No, yeah, she didn't.
So, at the end of the day, are they good dating apps? Probably not the best, but do they work?
I think they work. I
Yeah,
think they
they
work to
work.
extent.
To an extent.
I think they're effective in the sense that it still introduces you to a much larger target audience, and they get you some level of exposure on that larger scale, especially now when we don't have the ability to go out to bars and stuff where we would have had an audience otherwise.
Yeah.
So I think they're good in that way. I think they're trash on actually finding someone who's compatible with you. Like if you're looking for compatibility, do like Match.com or something where it like takes the personality questions.
Yeah.
Something like Hinge, Tinder, Bumble, absolutely not for compatibility. That's just for meeting people. And then you have to figure out who's compatible based on that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because even Match, man, like,
Yeah,
you're
it's not
still filling
perfect,
out
but-
questions, and it's not perfect, yeah.
But at least that's a more well-rounded actual compatibility test than a raw attraction, yes, no, hope for the best.
Yep. All right, so we're going to end on that one?
I think we should end on that one. Dating apps suck, and so do we. Boom. Signing out, guys.
Peace.